Hello, thanks for your company. Coming up, the top news from the French art world. We're inside Frank Gehry's spectacular Louis Vuitton Fondation, getting the famous architect's take on his creation. The Parisians didn't like his explicit tree, so how will they react to Paul McCarthy's new show featuring sex toys, €50 chocolate Santas, and an artistic response to his critics? And Monsieur Chat has his smile back. A court case against a street artist once again stirs the debate between what's art and what's vandalism. If you go down to the Paris woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. American architect Frank Gehry's latest museum project, the Fondation Louis Vuitton, has opened this week in the city's biggest park, the Bois de Boulogne. Commissioned by the boss of luxury goods conglomerate LVMH, Bernard Arnault, it's a contemporary art museum and cultural centre. It's taken a team of 5,000, 6 years to build. I went along to check it out. Some say that Paris's creative heyday was at the start of the 20th century. But I say Frank Gehry's monumental work triumphs over every other piece of Parisian architecture in the past 100 years. With its 3,600 glass panels, it's unique to Paris, and maybe even the world. Muscular and delicate, it's a marriage of cultural ambition and private enterprise, costing more than €100 million. The billowing sails of glass are designed by the world's greatest living architect, famous for the impressive Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. As the world sees his new work for the first time, everyone wants his take. It's been described as an insect, a whale, a boat. How would you describe it?
A place. I wanted to express movement. I mean, I've been curious about expressing movement in buildings for a long time because 19th century decoration creates a feeling of friendliness and scale and humanistic. And I didn't want to do that in my life. It seems like we should go forward. And the idea of expressing movement seemed logical in a society that everything's moving, planes and cars and everything. Being surrounded by trees is kind of a mandate not to screw it up. And almost any building, anything is an intrusion. So how do you do something that adds to the story? My favorite thing about the building today, coming here, is that it feels good to be here.
And it's not just the building that's spectacular. Inside, there are 11 art galleries, all dedicated to contemporary art.
The architect has encouraged an impetus, a spectacular impetus, which in itself provokes the artist. It's a challenge for the artist taking part. The idea is that the outside is crazy, but the inside is calmer, in order to make this magnificent, different and unique building very usable for the artists.
Fascinating both inside and out. More than 700,000 people are expected to visit the Fondation Louis Vuitton every single year, and they'll certainly see something like they never have before. Well, next, it's certainly been an eventful 2 weeks in Paris for the conceptual artist Paul McCarthy. While installing Tree, his inflatable Christmas tree come giant sex toy in the middle of the Place Vendôme, the artist was insulted and slapped by an enraged passer-by. The piece was then vandalised and deflated. Now, the first major exhibition of his work in France is underway at the newly renovated Monnaie de Paris, the city's historic mint. As Julia Sager reports, he's been busy making an artistic response for his critics.
As you walk in, you can't miss them. They stand majestically in front of you. Paul McCarthy's inflatable sculptures have offended some people because they look like giant sex toys. Others, however, simply see it as art.
I'm not shocked at all by this type of work. He's an artist. He has his own story.
It's art. Scandals are necessary for art to progress.
The scandal started a week ago with this controversial piece by the artist entitled Tree. The sculpture was vandalized and taken down just 2 days after being set up on Paris's posh Vendôme Square. McCarthy had himself admitted the tree has multiple meanings and interpretations.
It represents a Christmas tree, and it's this time of year. And then it has a shape that's reminiscent of an anal plug.
Whatever the sculpture's meaning, it turned out to be a great publicity stunt for McCarthy's new exhibit in Paris called The Chocolate Factory. But we're far from Roald Dahl's world, and little Charlie would probably not have made it in, since parents are advised not to bring their children. This factory produces some very explicit chocolates, which you can buy for 50 euros.
No one touches the art pieces. Everyone here respects this artist and his artwork, which is very provocative.
The artwork is a criticism of our consumer society. Chocolates are produced every day, then piled up, stocked, and surrounded by videos made by McCarthy. These transcriptions of insults were added at the last minute.
Mr. McCarthy was inspired to react to the violence and the despair he felt after what happened to him and his work on Place Vendôme. So he recorded his own voice shouting the insults.
Thousands of visitors have already come here to see what the fuss is all about. The exhibit is on display until January 4th.
Well, more controversy now. A Paris court has thrown out the case against the French-Swiss graffiti artist Thomas Vuil for vandalism. The artist, better known as Monsieur Chat, is famous in France for his giant yellow grinning cats. It once again stirs the debate between what's art and what's vandalism.
Monsieur Chat has his smile back. Graffiti artist Thomas Vuil, known more widely as Monsieur Chat, was taken to court in France for refusing to pay a fine for vandalising a metro station. But the charges were dismissed after the judge ruled the offence was outdated. For Monsieur Chat, there's no such thing as vandalism, just art.
When I see an opportunity, an opening, of course I jump on it. Why should people using the metro be subjected to the ugliness of these ongoing renovations? So I just added my little touch of color. I took advantage.
Clearing graffiti is an endless task, one that costs 20 million euros a year. While the rest of France adopts a zero-tolerance approach, authorities in Paris try to weigh up which murals are vandalism and which are real works of art.
We don't want to come across as censors, defining what's worth saving and what isn't. But there are some objective criteria. When we're talking about a world-renowned artist like Monsieur Chat, we know that his work will soon become part of Paris's DNA and will become an attraction, including for tourists coming to Paris. So I think we must protect them.
Paris's city council allows street artists to graffiti in certain areas and encourages property owners to give over their wall space. But critics say street artists will always break the rules.
They won't ever prevent them from coming back and making their mark on the city, on the wall, leaving their signature in as many places as possible.
And that's exactly what Monsieur Chat intends to do. Despite the legal battles that could lie ahead, the artist is determined to spread his cat's grin.
To another artist now who sparked debate in her day, Franco-American Niki de Saint-Phalle would have been 84 this week. Thousands of people have already been to her exhibition at Paris's Grand Palais, which is on until February. But her work isn't just inside the gallery. Our reporters have been to the sleepy village of Milly-la-Forêt, just outside Paris, to visit an unusual sculpture made out of debris that she created with her husband, Jean Tinguely.
His gaze is fixed from one eye only, a lustrous mechanical glance. The Cyclop is like a fairy tale monster. We fear it from afar and stumble upon it in a woodland clearing. At 22 meters high, he stands as tall as a 7-story building. Niki de Saint-Phal and Jean Tinguely started building this mammoth sculpture when they bought this piece of land in the middle of the forest. They called upon their circle of friends to lend a hand to the project, making the Cyclop what it is today.
The Cyclop is basically 30 different pieces of work made by 30 different artists from different schools, all from the second half of the 20th century. They were all linked to Jean Tinguely. Here we've got the column made by Niki de Saint-Phal, the case of gloves by the artiste Armand. He collected them at the foot of the Cyclop and made this glove piece with them.
This piece of sound art is another addition created by Venezuelan artist Soto. It stands alongside a furnished room where everything's back to front. Françoise Duperche was a friend of the artistic couple at the time and witnessed the Cyclop's creation.
Jean was always seeking something. He had to buy the material, the soldering machines, the engine generators to make the electricity. It was a huge operation, and it took more than 20 years in the end.
The Cyclop was conceived as a living, breathing organism, waking, eating, an organic, autonomous artwork. In 1987, Jean Tinguely donated the sculpture to the French Republic. Since then, some 16,000 visitors come to see it every year. Entering the bowels of the beast is a visual, audio and tactile experience.
It's just so amazing.
It's really something that was made from gut instinct. That's the feeling you get.
Art lovers have another 2 weeks to visit the sculpture before the Cyclop closes for its annual hibernation.
Well, now, just before we go, over-the-top fashion and celebrity photographer David Lachapelle is bringing some of his art photos to Paris for an exhibition at Galerie Daniel Templon. It's called Landscape and is on until the 20th of December. We're going to leave you with that. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter and Facebook. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.